Doing Adventures. We've been doing this for 5 years now and kind of bringing the art museum to you. And we do serve people with disabilities and older people. And this is Disability Pride Month. So let's get started with this program. It's about a very beloved artist, I think, in San Francisco, Ruth Asawa. And there's a retrospective of her art at SFMOMA through September the 2nd. And I am joined by my good friends Dragana Monson and Jeanette Pettibone. And they are both museum guides and people who love Ruth Asawa. And also, I always love talking with them about art. So welcome, Dragana and Jeanette, back to Art Viewing Adventures. And let's get started with this program. About Ruth Asawa. What's something like Dragana? What should we know about Ruth Asawa?
Well, first of all, that she was San Franciscan. She lived in San Francisco from 1950 till her death in 2013. So you count how many, that's 63 years, right? She was very active in the community, in the after school programs with children. She now there is a high school devoted to arts that's named after Ruth Asawa. So she contributed, and I think at the end of her life, when her daughter asked her what is she thinks her biggest contribution is to arts, she said the work she did with school children and arts in school. And that's, I think, what we all should know about her.
Jeanette, anything you'd want to add to that?
Oh, just you can see her impact in San Francisco at all the museums. Her work is there, and also throughout the city there are some public artworks and other places that if you can't make it to SFMOMA, the SFMOMA exhibit now, there's still lots of opportunities for you to see her work in the city, walking around or getting around. And also some of her work is free in the Diang as well. So you can, she's very much a part of the city. So yeah.
Yeah, it's right there in the elevator bank at the Diang. And I don't know if everyone knows this, you got to pay an admission to go to most of the Diang, but the elevator bank with all the Ruth Asawas is there's no charge for that. And you can go up in the tower and get a great view of the Bay Area from there. So this is one of the shots from the exhibition at SFMOMA. What's significant about what we're looking at right now, Dragana?
Well, this is intended to give us the feel about the way her living room used to look like. It's not exact replica if you want, but it is giving you a feel with the wood paneling on the walls with the high ceiling. And that photograph there on that back wall kind of gives you the idea of how her living room used to look like and how her work, her hanging sculptures were integral part of their living environment. And she and her large family really used this room not only as for family gatherings, but also as a workspace. She often used a living room as a studio.
Yeah, and her house was in Noe Valley. If you go on the City Guides Noe Valley tour, they will point out where her house was. And Jeanette, so we've got these shots of what the exhibition looks like at SFMOMA. What struck you about the way it was laid out?
It's probably the most striking thing is just the sheer number of works all put together. And also I love to see so many hanging works throughout the exhibition. It was just incredible. And you can see in this slide here, as in other slides we've just flown through, is that it's not just her hanging work. It's also the shadows that are cast on the walls behind create like a two-dimensional artwork alongside her three-dimensional pieces. And there's something just really magical. It takes up the entire Boda wing of SFMOMA. So it's a really large exhibition and really incredible. And to be able to see it all together, for me, evoked more emotion than I had expected.
Yeah, and what about you, Dragana? What were you pleased with the
Well,
way?
very much, very much. I mean, it shows her um, breadth, diversity of her interests, diversity of the works she produced. It's not sculptures that we kind of all know. It's also drawings, it's ink drawings, it's prints. It's, I mean, it's amazing and to understand actually that the amount of work is result of her working every day, drawing every day. She produced something, sketch or two or three every single day. And when we're talking about 63 years of, working, then that has to result in as many works as we see, and we see only little small segment. And by the way, this this planter is part of the exhibit more as a homage to Asawa and her gardening, because gardening and the love of plants was integral part of her art practice. And I think this is just as a reminder, as a place of respite, as you're walking through this enormous exhibit, you need a spot to kind of rest and rest your eyes on something beautiful and green like the planter and the plants in it.
Yeah, and if people don't know, this is a part of the fourth floor at SFMOMA that goes to the outdoors, and there's been various things there over the years, but this is, to me, one of the most successful things they've had there.
Certainly, yes.
Rodney, excuse me, this is so stunning.
It is
That
stunning,
reminds
isn't
me
it,
about the
Paco?
view of the Yerba Buena Gardens.
Yeah, we got, this is Yerba Buena Gardens over here, and the whole Moscone complex, Yerba Buena Center for the Performing Arts. Oh, and then this is a picture of Ruth Asawa's grandson at the exhibition.
Yeah, her family was very much involved, I think, in contributing pieces to the exhibit, and her family is maintaining her legacy. Let's put it that way. All of her children and grandchildren.
So a little bit of history about Ruth Asawa. She's Japanese American. I believe she grew up in Southern California.
Central, yeah, yes, Southern California, Central Valley, near near LA. Yeah,
And her family wasn't like a lot of Japanese Americans. Her family was involved in farming,
farmers.
but like almost all the Japanese Americans in California, she was affected by Executive Order 9066, which President Roosevelt signed, which basically ended the freedom of Japanese Americans early on in World War II. And she was interned at a
Arkansas camp in Arkansas, state of Arkansas.
I'll call it was a concentration camp. It was not a death camp, of course, but it was, people lost their liberty and they were imprisoned. She was released to go study at a teacher's college in, I think it was the Chicago area.
In Milwaukee, and it was 1943. So she got early release, which was not that usual, I would think. And from what I remember in the book by Marilyn Chase, it came about because her teacher helped her to enroll into and be accepted in the teacher's college and to get this relocation card that allowed her to leave the camp, but only to go to the college. So she didn't have a freedom to go wherever she wanted. She was allowed to go to the college in Milwaukee.
So she goes to the college, but when she finishes her studies and she was supposed to graduate, they refused to give her a diploma because they said no one's going to hire a Japanese American after this terrible war. And so she ends up not being able to teach, which results in her going to Black Mountain College in North Carolina in 1946. And we've got a couple of pictures there of her, and she's going. This is going to be very important for her development. Jeanette, what strikes you about like what happens with her at this period in her life?
Well, also, I think I've read that while she was in one of the camps, she met people um, who had had careers as like cartoonists for Disney or, other artists there. And so the whole time that she was in the camp, she was also she was able to learn from sort of master artists, and then she started an art practice. And then so going to Black Mountain College, which is so focused on the arts, I believe Black Mountain College doesn't have a degree. It didn't have a degree program. It was a place where you went and were developing your skill, and you had access then to amazing artists who were teaching there. And so again, having this mentorship of amazing artists, as well as all of her fellow students there, that interaction really blossoms art and art practice. And it sounds it sounds like an amazing place, and I'm sorry that it's not still active anymore,
Yeah.
because it just seems like that place where every artist that went there was just able to develop so much of their own creativity and artistic style, and learn from the best.
I mean, some of the artists that I know of who were there, Robert Rauschenberg, I think also Jasper Johns. Am I right about that?
I don't believe so. I
Okay.
think just Rauschenberg, because that was in 48, 49, before Jasper Johns came on the scene. So, but it was also, teacher was Joseph Albers, the teacher was Buckminster Fuller. So there were many, and some of the teachers were, emigres from Germany who escaped Hitler and Second World War and all of that. So it was very progressive school. And it was also, what was interesting about it, students were not just doing artwork, but they were also working in a kitchen. So Ruth helped cook. They were also working in vegetable, growing vegetables. She used her skills as a daughter of a farmer. She knew what to do and teach the others. So it was very multidisciplinary
Yeah, yeah.
place.
Yeah, there wasn't really a staff, like you think that everybody was doing all of the jobs as
Yep,
well as
yep,
the learning.
yep.
Yeah, and I saw a comment in chat. Someone was asking us to give background. So hopefully, Erica, this is giving you a good sense of like her roots in art.
So I just want to mention at this time, so this is 1946 photograph, she's 20 years old. So she's just on a cusp, just starting.
I love this photograph. She just looks like she's so focused on what she's doing. It's the beginning of this amazing career,
That's right.
incredibly productive career. But let's, and we do want to mention, by the way, if you would like to learn more about Ruth Asawa's life, this biography by Marilyn Chase, Everything She Touched, is excellent. I highly recommend it. It's available at Bay Area libraries. You could buy it at the SFMOMA bookstore, and you will not go wrong. This is really one of the great artists' biographies. But let's start talking about stuff that we saw at the exhibition. And I think Dragana, you picked this one. Tell us
I love this. I love this one. I think it just embodies the spirit and freedom and movement and energy of what she encountered and what she experienced at Black Mountain College. This was done during her years there, 1948, and it's called Dancers. Apparently, she took a class in dancing from Merce Cunningham, who was also there. John Cage was also there. So we're talking about some of the titans of the 20th century art who were part of Black Mountain program, and she certainly drew on that. And I think you can experience the movement in this dancer's print. Also, I love to point out that this is she's using the everything she learned from Joseph Albers about placing colors and about how colors change when they are put next to each other, and the tone, different tones and the vibration. This whole thing vibrates, right? It's full of life, and that's what makes me smile when I look at it.
Yeah, and Jeanette, I know you love this one also.
Yeah.
Want to jump in?
Well, I love the shapes that she has here, and I think it's not surprising because it's sort of you know, the beginning of some shapes we'll see in her hanging work that she's most known for, her wire work. But I love these shapes and looking for the dancers. So it's untitled, but the subtitle is dancers, and seeing sort of trying to find these dancers in here. Maybe they've got their arms up like this, and there's one whose arms are just up and not connected at the top, which just brings me a little bit of joy, that one. And just the roundness and the shapes of these are as delightful as like Dragana mentioned, the colors and the colors put together. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make me think of the sculpt. We'll be getting to the hanging sculptures later
Yep,
on. It
yep.
makes me think of those.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is not in the exhibition. We thought this would be an interesting thing to compare it with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It's even subtitled Exercise in Color Vibration, like Dragana mentioned.
Yeah.
Her work with Joseph Albers in color theory, and by putting certain colors together, the colors come alive and pop, and I love the movement in this. The movement, not just the color vibration, but also it feels to me that the way that the figures are placed here, it does feel like there's movement happening.
And play of positive and negative space, and the way how she's the thickness or thinness of the line, all of it contributes to that feel of movement and energy and vibration and all of that.
And this could, like, no other artist could really do this, or this just screams Ruth Asawa, even though it's at the very beginning of her career.
Yeah, this is still in school. She's still in school.
Let's move on to these. So this is a little bit later, early 1950s, potato prints. So what's going on with, maybe Jeanette, tell us about the potato prints.
One thing that I really like about these, well, probably a lot of you, and maybe you can put your experiences in the chat, have done a potato print. It's something that I did in elementary school, and I like the groundedness of this, that she's using. She's very resourceful with her materials. This is early on, you know, she didn't have a lot of money to do her art, and she's very resourceful and thoughtful about the materials that she uses. So here she's using potato prints, so carving prints or carving design off of the potato, but then she's elevating everything like she does. Again, using the color theory, these purples and oranges together to get that pop, to get the vibration, using the sense of layering and different saturations to not, so that these are not flat. They don't feel flat. They feel like they have some dimension and some shape and energy in them.
We have a potato print artist in our midst. Gail says she did these as a kid. Really
Wonderful,
fun.
super.
Is there a particular, Gail, what kind of potato works best?
Large baking potatoes, probably.
Yeah.
I love potatoes, Rodney.
You've got some potatoes there?
Yes, I had
Well,
potatoes
we
last
just need to get
night.
you some ink, and you're russet, says Marsha.
Yeah.
Marsha also, by the way, mentioned that this almost, I think this one, or maybe the one before, made her think of dancing foot charts.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as they're dancing, that's
Or maybe
the key.
even the one before, I think also.
Yeah.
Go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
foot charts. But these are potato prints.
I think it's also kind of important to mention they all feel organic, right? They're plants. Like, I don't know, what do you see here? But to me, it looks like a leaves or it's trees or whatever. But she drew inspiration from the nature around, and that's something that she also learned and that they experienced at the Black Mountain College, where Joseph Albers would have them pick up the leaves from the hills around the college and use them to create the composition.
I also really love the layering. You know, I think that's like that's not an easy thing to achieve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the complementary colors help her do that.
Yep.
So we had mentioned Joseph Albers and wanted to talk about just like what was going on with his work. Dragana, like tell us how do you see the relationship between Albers and Asawa?
Well, that was certainly a relationship that started to be of the teacher and student, but it developed through the years to be a real strong friendship with Albers and his wife, Annie Albers. And in the process of these many years, they exchanged, artwork in between themselves. She would give him one of her pieces, he would get, and then she would get from him one of his pieces. So it was lots of letters in between them. He was certainly one of the most important people in her life, mentors. As Jeanette mentioned, she had many of them, but Joseph Albers was one of the most important ones. And this example here of this whole series that he's the best known for, Homage to the Square, while he was, I think, professor at Yale, deals exactly what we're talking about, the placement of color and how the placement of colors next to each other influence how we see them and the sense and feeling we get from these colors.
Anything to add to that, Jeanette?
No, I thought Dragana said that beautifully. It's really amazing if you have a chance to see some Albers work in person, to look at how, for instance, in this piece, like the gray will look different when it's next to the blue versus when it's next to the more yellow, and
Yep.
to be able to just sit and contemplate. I feel like these are love poems to color, and also very meditative. So I feel like we get some of that love poem feeling from Asawa, though I feel like it's love poem to form and shape from her. But the color is so important as well.
Yeah, and Albers is I think almost always on display at SFMOMA
Yes.
on the second floor.
Yep.
And the other thing that Asawa and Albers both have in common is they both had their works on U.S. postage stamps. I think it's very fitting that they corresponded a lot through the U.S. mail. So let's move. So now this is like kind of a later. Well, tell us about this, Dragana. Tell us about this.
Well, this is from mid 60s. I think it was summer 1965. Through help of Joseph Albers, she was able to get a residency at a Tamarind print shop or printing studio in Los Angeles. So she spent 2 months there all by herself, with the master printers working at the studio at her disposal. And she was incredibly prolific in those 2 months. She really took full advantage because she did not have to deal with her kids and family and all the other obligations that she would normally have. So she could completely concentrate on her work. And this poppy is probably one of the most well-known pieces from that period that she created on there. Maybe even that one was on a stamp, can't remember now. But what I love about this print, I mean, its fluidity, it's powerful, kind of punching red, which apparently was created by first putting yellow and then red on top of it to get that vibrating red orange of the poppy, and then use of the negative space. Look at the white stem and white edge around the poppy. I mean, she's really utilizing the medium so well to give us this beautiful, simple, and at the same time complex print.
Yeah, it really is so fun to look at. I think it's kind of hallucinogenic. Ironic that it's a poppy, right? It's a plant that does have that kind of property. Jeanette, what about you? What do you think of this?
Well, I think, it shows she's come a long way from her potato prints.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the colors here. I love that poppy red, but also I feel like you can almost get lost in the background, that the swirling sort of feeling. It's just, it works so well. It's so beautiful. And yeah, I love the use of the negative space. So the non-colored space. I just think that there's so much balance and interest and intrigue for something that, it's one flower, it could be simple, but it's anything but.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that background. It's
I
really
love those petals, actually, Jeanette.
so Paco, you like the petals. What about the petals do you really like, Paco? What strikes you about them?
Actually, that the red thing too. That reminds me about amoeba.
Amoeba. It looks like an amoeba.
Yeah.
Cool. So here's another one of chairs. And I remember which well, we'll start with you, Jeanette. What about this made you think this is a good one to discuss?
Well, this also shows another style that she did quite a bit, which is with an ink on paper or on doing these little tiny sort of squares to give so much interest into a work. So this is just one example. I think we might have more later in the slides. But also, this is playing very much with what Dragana was talking about with the poppy also, and earlier with negative space. And, the chair itself is only defined by the background, or at least these center chairs, the white chairs, they are only defined by the background. So they aren't drawn, they aren't colored, it's the background. And by putting this background together that creates the chair, which is this is something that she plays a lot with in her 2D works, and I think is just inherent in all of her 3D works. So and then the use of these tiny squares, it can sometimes feel like there's texture in there, where in reality they're flat little squares. But the way that she's able to put them together often feels like a sense of space and a sense of texture, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, Dragana,
yeah, they go in and out. I mean, by the swirling, by creating the shape, if you want. And by the way, I believe that these are actually tips of the fat magic marker that she.
Okay.
So if you imagine, I mean, just imagine the patience or dedication or concentration and focus to go to create the shape by just putting dot after dot after dot. I mean, and to have a control to create as a complex shape as these chairs are. I think that's
we all have magic markers. And sometimes one of the things we'll hear with modern art is people say, well, anyone could do that.
Yeah,
my child could do that.
Really?
You can't say that about this. We can take our magic markers and do whatever we want with them. We're not going to come up. We're probably not going to come up with this.
Yeah.
I love chairs, Rodney. That
You love
reminds me about
chairs.
parties too.
Do you think they'd be pretty comfortable chairs, Paco?
Yes.
Yeah, they do. They look like chairs ready for people to sit in them and have a nice party, like you said. Let's move on to another one. It's, I guess, kind of similar. Dragana, I
We
think
did
you.
have a quick, I wanted to address some of the questions in the
Oh yeah,
chat
we have
as
stuff in
well.
chat. Please do.
Gail's asking what the letters and numbers after the title mean. And we can do that with this one as well. I believe that, oh, do you want to go for this, Rodney?
Well, just they mean different things. And it's like, I know, like we saw BMC, and that's Black Mountain College. I don't know what FF is. Do you have any idea?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And some of them are S, which will be for sculpture.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
It's a way of category, right? Making putting it in a category or catalog of her work.
We actually reached out to Marilyn Chase, who wrote the book just yesterday, and she got back to us. I asked her about the titles, and she referred me to there's the foundation that manages her estate now, and so we could probably get an answer to that question. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Like, what are these? What's the system for these categories?
Yeah, but it is a system of identifying her artwork where I believe the letters have to do with a time period in her life or a certain category. And then the numbers are just a sequential range of numbers of art from that, I believe. But most of her work is untitled.
Yeah.
Officially
untitled. FF might be fantastically fun, possibly.
Yeah. I love it.
It's fantastic. This one's fantastically fun. So what are we looking at here?
Love this one.
I love this one. Out, right? Or was it you, Jeanette? You're the one who.
Go ahead.
But Dragana wants to talk about it. I hear that.
I just love this one. I don't know if you can tell. You can see it's a baby on a blanket, right? It's her son, who was born in about 1960, I think. So this is a 18 months or 2-year-old baby that she's created by, this is pen and ink. So every single of these lines is made by, pen. She's drawing, so she's again doing the same thing as we saw in the chairs, right? She's creating the shape of the object, or in this case of the baby, by just creating the pattern around it, pattern of the blanket around it, and also using that same pattern for baby's clothes. So it takes a little time for you to recognize, right, what you are looking at. It's not that obvious. On the first glance, it appears very abstract, and then once you see it, you recognize the shape. And so we were debating. There is this white line running across, and we were debating whether it's part of the object or some mistake on a photograph. But I think it's actual part of the drawing that she did. What do you think, Jeanette? Do you think it's real part of the drawing?
Yeah, I would have to go back and look again, but it seems like every photograph we've seen of this, as well as our own, has it in the exact same spot. Even though we are different heights and different, so yeah.
Sarah thinks he's pole vaulting.
It does look like.
There's a real through line in her works, which is, as we'll see with the hanging wire sculptures, that it's just like an enormous amount of concentration to do something. It's kind of a repeated motif that she uses to create all this, but you can just imagine the incredible concentration to get something like this. So she is willing to put in a lot of time. Rauschenberg does the white painting, and I'm sure that took some time, but it's nothing like this. This is really, really detailed.
As John Foster says, it grounds the figure, and it really does. The pattern grounds the figure. Her lines It's
Yeah.
and you get also the folds of the blanket. Look how she's able to get it. So in movement, right? It's not a flat. She didn't place baby on some flat thing. It's full of texture, full of movement, folds.
Yeah, it's something we've seen across her work is things that could be flat aren't. They have movement, they have shape, they have dimension, but they're built of these materials or techniques that could be flat, except that she's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you said it in the beginning when we talked about the shadows, the two-dimensional shadows of the three-dimensional sculptures, that she kind of just seamlessly goes back and forth between 2 and 3 dimensions.
Mhm.
Here's another, this is actually a drawing that's not in the exhibition, but there's one that we'll show, actually I'll show it right now, similar to this, that is in the exhibition.
Oh, that reminds me about pigeons in the Pacifica, Rodney.
Yeah, the beach at
Uh,
Pacifica.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of birds probably, right? Shorebirds.
Yes. Again,
Jeanette, you're our bird expert.
I love this, and a lot of the reason is the things that we've been talking about. Here, I mean, in the one that's not in the exhibition, it's all about, again, using negative space in an interesting way. That the bricks surround the shapes of pigeons, but we, as people that have had experience with pigeons, fill in all of this information in an interesting way. The one that is in the exhibition, there's so much movement. There's so much sort of what I'll call pigeon joy. I mean, there's just uh, there's so much um, just life in this, and the way that that pigeon is sort of that first one.
Yeah.
It is sort of looking at us. I feel like we're brought into the scene, and it's a scene that's very common. We have, I think most of us city dwellers have encountered many pigeons in our life, and but there's a lot of life, and it's interesting that how it's not at all flat, even though they're just these pigeons on cobblestones. It's for me, it's a delight.
It's great to see pigeons getting the respect they deserve. Really. 'Cause they
Yeah.
are pretty amazing animals.
Yeah.
I love how she almost caught it in mid-flight. This one
Yeah.
in the middle, it's with with wings. And looking at the date, 1965, more than likely this is lithograph. This looks like that one of those pieces that she may have created down in LA. And
Yes.
because look at the texture of the bricks, the cobblestones, and the way how she's playing that kind of watery almost pattern that she gets on the cobblestone. It's
Yeah.
again full of life, full of movement.
We have a comment from Gail. She says, I knew her hanging sculptures and grounded sculptures, but I had no idea of her art in other mediums. Wow. Yeah,
Yes.
that's something we've talked about it a couple of years ago. We did a program about the drawings of Ruth Asawa. So yeah, that's kind of why we wanted. First of all, it shows like this is what she started doing at the very beginning. And yeah, they're really great. We should probably move along. 'Cause we
Yeah.
have
Let's
Yes.
get to our sculptures now.
Let's get to the sculptures.
plenty more of these
Oh,
drawings.
I just want to interrupt. I have to say just a little bit about this one
Sure.
because w- this is later in life, right? This is 1980s, 90s. She, as I said, she was drawing every single day. She was in 85, I think, laid down with lupus and really could not work on her sculpture. So she did drawing every day. And these watercolors are some of the results. And I think this one is just sublime. I think you can see it's a ball of cherries, right? But all what you see is this the texture, the shiny. You can almost bite the cherry in a ball. I think it's just so skillful, so alive. So colors are just beautiful, and it shows complete control of the medium, and great skill.
Yeah,
And
an interesting
again,
choice not to show the bowl.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's her showing the bowl by all the cherries in the bowl instead of, yeah, she's a master.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
So now the hanging sculptures that we all know and love, but I counted them. There's like 75. I think there's at least 75 of these things. I'd never seen so many in one place. So
Yeah.
that is the great thrill of this exhibition,
Oh,
I think.
excuse me, Rodney. That reminds me about that kind of columns from the Ruth Asawa.
Yeah, the columns.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
spiral stuff thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is like what she's best known for, right?
Yes, the middle one, apparently.
So let's here's
Oh, this is beautiful example.
yeah. Tell us about this one, Dragana.
Well, I'm just going to say, we should probably say, for those of you who don't know, how she got inspiration to do something like this. While she was at Black Mountain College, and I believe it was 1947, she went to Mexico with her friend or her sister, doesn't matter, and learned the technique of making basket from indigenous women in Toluca, Mexico, and loved the shapes, loved what she could create three-dimensionally with it. So she took that technique that she learned there. And by the way, that's a technique that does not involve tools except one small wood dowel that she uses to create each one of the loops. But she uses her own fingers. And, because the buyer is, can procure whatever. So she's taping her fingers with the tape in order to still have a control and bend it and do what she needs to do. So she's starting to do from these small objects like one you see here in foreground, but then very quickly it evolves into these very complex figures that actually some of them are apparently made only from a single wire. It starts and goes on and on and on. And this photograph, which I just love because it shows what her life was. Her life was art and her life was children, and they were completely integrated. She wanted her children to see what artist does and she was able to really seamlessly integrate her making of art with her being mom.
Yeah, so many artists, I think their family is very separate from their art. And, of course, this picture shows you how integral they are. And then to this very day, her children are very, very involved in her estate and her legacy.
And by the way, she had 6 children. So, and we're talking 6 children, one after another. So you're having 6 small children milling around the living room while she's making this large pieces of sculpture. Look at the baby without the diaper on the floor. And by the way, these photographs were made by Imogen Cunningham, who was great family friend, and obviously quality of photographs is a result of having a great photographer there at work.
And people love we've got some of these other photographs that we're showing are from one of her sons, who also ended up photographing her sculptures extensively.
Son-in-law too, Lawrence Cuneo, husband of, I think, Aiko, also took many of these. But this one, I think, is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this photo
The picture you took. Yes.
you cannot make bad photograph. I mean, they're so beautiful with the and here you really see the play of shadows and how important and integral shadows are in her work. It would not be the same effect and same impact without the shadows on the wall and transparency and layering and all of it.
And
if you don't mind me saying so, Dragana, it's a really nice photograph.
Yeah, it is.
Did you do this on a phone?
Yeah.
Wow.
So somebody in the chat is asking who was father of the children. Father was her husband, who she met at Black Mountain College. His name was Albert Lanier from, let's say, Alabama or somewhere in the South, who came to San after they graduated, after they left the college. They got married, and only reason that they were able to get married was that California passed the law in 1949 that allowed interracial marriage. If they wanted to get married 48, they couldn't. So they were married in San Francisco in 1950 and started their life there and basically lived their whole life. And he was practicing architect. And I actually know somebody whose aunt and uncle had house in San Francisco designed by Albert Lanier.
Wow. And you yourself are an architect, Dragana.
Yeah.
Is there something kind of architectural about her art? It seems like there is.
Well, of course there is. This play of space, light, volumes. It's all has very much. And I think that, she certainly used the resources that architectural office of her husband could offer her in terms of they are in the exhibit. We don't have it here in presentation. Some of the drawings or prints that were made using architectural zipatone, the layered patterned paper that we architects used to do in 70s and 80s before computers to give the shadows, to give the forms to the object we were drawing. So she made a use of them.
That's right, because architects really care about shadows too.
Yes, indeed.
And then this is another picture you took.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about this, Dragana.
Well, I just thought it's great to see how intricate. I mean, you in the photograph, you can see the loop, right? And you can now understand that using that wood dowel, which helped her create the original, the single loop, and then how she builds from there and then continues and continues. I mean, I'm looking at it. I love transparency. I love overlapping. I love the effect of it. I still, to be completely honest, I still don't understand how exactly did you do it. It's quite would have loved to see the process.
Well, no one's kind of done it since, I want to we had a comment in chat from Gail that it's almost two artworks in one, the sculpture and the shadow it casts.
Yep.
In your photograph really shows like them kind of interacting with each other.
Yep.
It's almost like they're dancing.
They certainly are. They have movement.
And you get that sense of all the shapes that we've seen in her 2D work.
That's right.
Coming to life in 3D and in complicated and interesting and intricate and exciting ways.
Yep.
All right. And this is another one of your photographs.
Yeah, just go. Yeah.
We all have these iPhones, we should all be able to make great photographs like this.
It's just beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, this is not one of yours, right? I think this is from the Chronicle.
Yeah.
But very, very nice photograph of a sculpture in the exhibition. And then this is from her son-in-law, and this is the house.
Just imagine living every day in this. This is your environment. It's just mesmerizing to me, and it had to be so inspiring for kids.
Yeah, would you ever get used to it? Would you ever think, oh, this is just normal?
I think they did. I mean, if you grow up from, you probably think that's how everybody else lives.
It would feel, I think, well, maybe in the chat put how you would feel, but I feel like I'd feel like almost I'm living in an underwater dream, or with all of these creatures above me, or it would feel very fantastical and wonderful, I think, to be in this as an everyday living space. And
Yeah.
there's just a little bit of chaos here too, that they're, in the museum, they're hung at intervals for maximum viewing, but here it's more organic in a way, that they're just hung everywhere. And I would feel very much like I'm living in a dream.
I
Pretty
see that Gail put in a chat that at a friend's birthday party, we had a chance to make baskets. Let me just say, making baskets is not easy. I can't even fathom making the sculptures. Crikey? How do you
No.
say it?
Yeah, Cherry says it's overwhelming to
Yeah,
contemplate being in this
yeah,
space.
it is.
And yeah, it's just kind of another neat photograph of these things. I think it's really fun that there's so many, and you can go walk through the galleries and like figure out which ones are your favorites.
And you see that she used different kind of wire. You notice the color, golden color there in the back, and then there's some black, they're oxidized, so there sometimes she overlaps two different color shapes, right? Something gold with black over it, sometimes green and patinated green. So it's and it all has its own special, effect. This is a beautiful photograph, by the way.
Yeah.
I wonder about conservation of these things, how that's going.
I think I saw somewhere on Instagram from SFMOMA talking about it, that they it is a special treat that they got to work on these.
This one's really fun. What is it? Jeanette, what is this? What are we looking at?
I'm getting a little bit of a dog.
Dog?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like some
for a
kind of-
moment it's like a balloon animal, but then it's also feels, again, I often get a sense of like under the sea, like sea creatures here, and I don't know if anyone else gets that
Somebody
feeling,
says
but
Mickey Mouse.
oh
Somebody
yeah, Mickey Mouse. Yeah,
I
that
like that, Mickey Mouse.
that
It's
there's
something fun
some
though. Like
sense
it's
of,
definitely
yeah.
there's something joyous about this.
Yep.
When there was a bulb inside an outer bulb, was it still done with one wire throughout? Asks Vivian. Do either of you know the answer?
I believe in some cases, yes. Then you see the little wire kind of going through, hanging up and continuing. Not always, but in some cases, I believe, yes.
We are kind of getting short on time.
Yes, we are.
This one, is this the one that's at SFMOMA permanent in the permanent collection? I think it might be.
It might be, yeah.
And then Jeanette, you wanted to point out that these were used for magazine
Ad
advertisements in
campaign.
1953.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been used for an ad campaign. This was early in her career, earlier in her career.
Yeah.
Used to sell women's clothing.
And
Yeah.
you really could not use them to sell men's clothing, right? If you like a tuxedo with this thing next to it would be too weird. So there's something
Well,
feminine about them, I think.
they are very feminine shapes, and
Yeah.
that was one of the critiques of the New York reviewers,
Oh,
that
yeah.
her shapes were too feminine. And here this is beautiful photograph. Look at the tape on her fingers. Remember what we were talking about? Yeah, her fingers are covered in tape.
So we have this quote: "These forms come from observing plants, the spiral shell of a snail, seeing light through insect wings, watching spiders repair their webs in the early morning, and seeing the sun through the droplets of water suspended from the tips of pine needles while watering my garden." So this is very organic origins
This
of
is
that.
moving, Rodney.
It's moving.
Yes.
It is. And then we have these are a little different, these open hyperbolic shapes. So, and then we have these tied wire a lot of tied wire. Anything you want to say, either one of you, about the tied wire?
Go to one more, maybe. Yeah, this one. Does anybody recognize what is this inspired by?
Almost looks like a logo of sorts, or
It always starts with this 5-star flower, star, whatever you want to call it, right? That in the middle, and then goes from there, right? So in architecture, we often drew on our plans, we used to draw trees like that. So you still start with the trunk, and then you go, and then at the edges, you develop this very tiny lines representing the tree. But actually, these were inspired by the desert plant, tumbleweed, that she received from one of her friends who went to Arizona and came back with this thing in his trunk. They're about, I don't know, this size. And she was absolutely fascinated by the form and by how nature made it, and tried to analyze it by making it in wire like this. You can see all the various reiteration. In this particular case, I think it's more of a tree looking than tumbleweed. But
this one's kind of tumbleweed-like.
somewhat, yeah,
More three-dimensional.
three-dimensionally, yeah.
Like it would actually probably roll. And you'd get in big trouble with the museum if you tried to
Probably
do that.
would. Yeah.
Let's see.
Is it did she take the wire and splay it? Is that how you go from the thick and the sturdy to the wispy?
I don't believe so.
I think what
She
the
tied
thick
them,
parts
right?
are a bunch of wire tied together.
That's right. That's
So
right.
the thick parts aren't one wire. The thick parts are many, many, many wires bundled
Yeah.
together. And then they start
Okay.
to individuate, or
Splay.
if that's
Yeah.
a word.
Splay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We have like a couple minutes. Jeanette, you found this picture of this
Yeah. I
hat.
just thought it was fun to see other ways that her work could
Can be used.
envisioned. Yeah.
I don't know. Just imagine having that on your head. It must be very pokey and very.
Yeah. It might be too pokey, but yeah, I thought that was fun.
And here's one that we didn't necessarily love this one, but it's a collaboration that she did it's got stained glass in the middle of it with Bruce Sherman.
Yeah.
But let's keep moving. And then there were these masks. She was known. Anyone want to talk about that? Making the masks?
Well, I can
Yeah.
just. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Okay, well, there are a few masks in the exhibition, but this is a picture of the masks on her house. So this is as she's entering her house, people will come and walk past these masks, and they're actually live masks. Oftentimes a mask in art it was a death mask, but these are life masks. She would invite people over to a party, smother their face in Vaseline, stick straws up their nose, and start covering them in plaster to make these masks of her friends and family. So, this to me kind of embodies everything about her spirit of like having her children there in her art, having all of her family there in her art and her life, and very much being part of a community. And so I can imagine if you were going to visit your friend and you're like, oh, well, there's my face, and there are the faces of everyone that she loves in the world. So it's very beautiful. So this was outside of her Noe Valley home.
There is about 300 of them.
Wow.
And I think somebody might be interested how they were made. I read somewhere that she would slaughter Vaseline over people's faces with a cardboard cutout, kind of protecting their hair, and then a straw put through nostrils so that people can breathe, and then put a plaster over it. It would stay thin layer. It would stay on their faces for 8 minutes. take it off, let it, I guess, dry or whatever, then use the clay to actually cast the mask.
Fun times at the Asawa household.
Mhm.
We probably won't spend too much time on this, but it kind of shows the roots in origami of her work. And then let's just move to this, because even when the exhibition ends, there are a lot of public works of Ruth Asawa in San Francisco and also San Jose. There's an amazing memorial for the Japanese Americans who were interned, an internment monument in San Jose that I highly recommend visiting. It's really somber and tells the whole story. But this is, I gotta say, this is one of my all-time favorite things. This is at Union Square, the San Francisco fountain. And it has all kinds of cool things. It's basically a recreation of the city. This is the Ferry Building. It's got, I believe it has the Legion of Honor in it.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, the Legion, there it is,
Yeah,
Legion of
yeah.
Honor. And then the crookedest street in the world and everything else. But we should probably wrap up. So any last thoughts? First, we'll start with you, Dragana, and then Jeanette.
I just hope that what you got out of this presentation is the whole complete breadth of the work that Asawa produced in her 60 plus years. And some of the pieces are just, to me, ethereal, sublime. They transport you, both her wire sculptures, also her watercolors, her drawings. And I urge you, if at all you can, please do go and see this exhibit. It's very well worth it.
Thanks, Dragana. How about you, Jeanette?
I second everything Dragana just said. And I love that she's rooted here in San Francisco. She's part of our history here. And so if you have a chance to see her work anywhere, any of her public work at the Young or at this exhibition, she's part of our history.
Yeah, and I see a question in chat about where the monument is in San Jose. It's on First Street, very close to the federal courthouse, I guess.
Downtown.
Okay.
Downtown, so kind of smack dab in the middle of downtown San Jose.
Yeah.
I think if you check in like Apple or Google Maps, it'll tell you where it is. I highly recommend visiting it. It's really somber and moving. But Dragana, Jeanette, it's always great talking to you about art. And, clearly you both love and have a deep knowledge of Ruth Asawa. So thank you for joining me today to do this.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was very, very enjoyable.
This is enjoyable, Rodney.
Well, great, Paco. We really appreciate your input. And, we love having you attend our programs.
Thank
you very much.
Okay.
Great having you, Selma, and everyone. I see a lot of nice comments in chat. So we'll be back in, I believe, a couple weeks with a young photographer named Cody Paul, who shares the same last name I have, and there's a reason for that. But we'll be talking to him about this really cool photography he's doing in Chicago right now.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
I'm gonna see you at Richie's program.
Richie Hunter Burgers tonight.
Rock-a-go-go, part 1. That'll be really fun. Yeah, and Jeanette, I'm so glad you said that about her identity with San Francisco. I'm such a proud native that I love that part of it. I love that we ended with that beautiful fountain there at Union Square that I'm going to go take a visit to. It's gorgeous. Thank you, everybody. Rodney, that was a really special show. Thanks, everybody. So
Right.
see you in 2 weeks.
See you next time.
August
See
11th.
you,
Thanks again,
Nikki.
Jeanette, Dragana,
Bye, everyone.
Paco.
See you, Nikki.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Paco. Bye, Roger.
Bye, Rodney. Bye,
Bye.
Jeanette.
Bye.